Right, let's try this. Something new. Moved it to the other side of the workbench for this one. So it's not really something new. We've done a few of these, we've just not videoed them before. Suffolk punch cylinder petrol mower. We've got 3 of these for some reason. I think my wife's got a bit of a fetish for them. This one's just stopped working. It hasn't had a service, I think, since we got it, or she got it off eBay. So it's due a service anyway. I need clean out. It's not idling. Can't get it to start. If it does start, it doesn't run for very long, so I suspect the carb needs cleaning. There's definitely fuel in it, so we'll just start stripping it down. So I've got the side off. Just have a look at the state of that. There does appear to be a bit of chafing going on with the bands, but I haven't seen the inside of this one, so I don't know what it's been like, or whether this is just a bit of dust as well, but there's definitely something been rubbing there, but I can't see anything. Most of the pulley bearings seem okay. I mean, they're not, you know, this isn't a car, so they're not really up to car standards. I'm a bit concerned about the bearing on the drive for that one, because I don't remember any others being that loose. But this is one of the later, cheaper ones, so there's a lot more Chinesium in this one than there is in the other ones. The belts look okay, which is good, because one of these belts, this one, the front belt, is very hard to get hold of now. So you have to effectively go for a bespoke one. I've got a couple of spares here that I've managed to pick up over the last few weeks, because 2 of the other mowers have got bust ones of these now, so I need to replace them. So I've got one bearing, one for the drive side, and I've got 2 for the cutters, because they're the hard ones to get hold of. And I've kind of edged my bets and went for 2 different suppliers, and bought 2 different sizes. So there's kind of a standard belt size of a Z28, one of those. That was the one where I measured, kind of roughly got the measurements, except it's all backwards because I haven't worked out to switch the camera around yet and de-mirror it. And I did actually find somebody who got some new old stock of these parts, so that's what that one is. So that is a genuine one. So there we go. Not a lot to do in there. Everything works with that. There was no problems with the clutch mechanism. Sometimes they slip and you have to adjust the cables, because that's how it basically works. It's a slip clutch arrangement using the belt. So when you put the drive on, what it does is it pinches that tension roller across, that then drags the belt onto the pulley tighter and then forces it to snag on. And it's the same for the drive as well. When you pull the cutters, it pulls those up, and if you run it when the cutters are on, engage that. It pulls that one across. If they ever start to slip, just adjust those. If it's coming on when you don't want it to, and it's trying to spin every now and again, slacken them off basically. Right, hopefully that's recording. I've switched the camera around now so you get the writing in the right way round. Hopefully you do. Anyway, right, strain the oil. Surprised me. Thought it was, could have sworn it was a 15. Oh yeah, looking at it, it's a 14. Oh, you just knew that was going to take me knuckles, didn't you? Oh, perhaps he did. Right. Yeah, they don't have a lot of oil in, but they're not the easiest thing. Well, actually, I say they don't. This is an Hitachi Kawasaki engine. I haven't done the Kawasaki engine before. Right, mind your head, because I might end up catching you here with the arm when I bring it down. These are absolute pig to drain. You end up with oil everywhere. Doesn't matter how you do it, you always end up with oil. Actually, that oil doesn't look too bad. It's not the black gunk I'm used to bringing out. I've got that handle right in the way so you can't see anything. Just jump up if you can't see. Is that better? Most of it's out. And most of it's in the bowl, the rest of it's over the worktop. As you can see, it just ends up absolutely everywhere. So this particular one, so you're kind of stuck with doing it this way. It's not much better out the front. It's even harder out the front. You'd have to virtually tip the mower upside down to do it. I don't think they've got a magnetic thing, sump plug. Let's have a look. I can't see where you are. Yeah, no magnetic sump plug on this one, but you see the oil looks fairly clean. Look at that. There's nothing in it. There's no sign of any metal flake or shimmer to it that I can see there, so it looks like everything's all good inside the engine, so that's good news. Right, I'll just clean up a bit and then bring you back in a minute. Right, time to start being a bit professional, actually wear some gloves. No good for open water swimming, these. Yeah, I do not like wearing gloves. Right, stick that back in. Look at that, ambidextrous. Why use the hand? I haven't got the glove on. I bet you were all shouting at me, weren't you? Put the glove on, use the other hand. Because it's not even my good hand. I have an important job, you know. There probably is a torque setting for these, but hold on. Click. There you go. That's about right. And I guess it'd probably be something like 10, 15 newton meters for something like that. You've got quite a big screw into a cast aluminium, so it's going to be high but not massive. You've got to be careful you don't strip the threads out, because that's pretty much your engine gone, because there's not a lot of meat left there to go and cut it out and do anything else. Right, let's see if we got spark first, because it wasn't starting. I suspect it's carburation is the issue, but we'll have a look. God, that didn't want to come off. Guessing that's not the right one. Try 14. Quite chunky, these lawnmower ones. That dog's not going to give it a rest today, is he? Just noticed, look. Anyway, because it's an air-cooled engine and they do have a habit of getting full of crud down the cooling fins, and they get packed up, and if that happens they can overheat and you'll blow your head gasket, or worse than that, destroy your engine anyway. Let's see if we've got some spark. Oh yeah, good spark there. It's a little bit weak, but it's quite light here. Let's just unwrap you. You appear to be wrapped up in everything. I don't know if you can see that. Yep. Spark plug's a little bit dirty, so we'll give that a clean. Let me just turn the lights off. So you should be able to see it better now. Now you see the sparks dancing around over a few spots there. It's because it's a bit carboned up. So we'll give that a quick clean. If you can see, that spark's a lot stronger now. It's just had a quick clean, just run it off with the wire brass brush, and then give the terminal anode a quick rub over. So we can pop that back in. I've not worked on one of these Hitachi's before, so it's been a bit of a voyage of discovery. It's not a new spark plug, so it only wants it just wants nipping up finger tight, and then about 1/8 of a turn. So that's finger tight, and then 1/8. You don't want to be putting too much resistance on it. The crush washer's already crushed, but it should be fine. Right then, let's have a look at the carburetor. So there's quite a bit of debris in there. That's unusual for most lawnmowers, and you take them to pieces, don't have a lot in there, but that's okay. The filter itself doesn't look too bad. It just appears to have taken up quite a bit of debris, but looking at this filter box, it's more open than the others, so that doesn't surprise me. Turn it around so you can shift my light out of the way. Let's see what we're up to. What I'm gonna do is, because I've got a bit of a fuel issue going on then, obviously, we'll just put a bit of carb cleaner down. So the other thing that Joanne told me was that the petcock is really stiff, and she's right, that's really stiff. It looks like there's quite a bit of sediment in the bottom of the bowl as well. So I think what we'll do is we'll crack that off and clean that out as well. Should be able to crack the bowl off with the petcock off. Don't like using mole grips or grips like this, but needs must. That's not helpful. That's just spinning. Okay. I'll put something in there just to see if I can grab hold of it. What's that bent? So in theory this is off, so we shouldn't get any fuel coming out. Only what's in the pipe running up to the bowl. Ew, that's pretty scabby. That is nearly completely full. So that could very well be the problem. You can't quite see how full it is there, but that is pretty scabby. It's so bad. I was actually questioning myself then whether there was actually a sponge in the filter as well, but that looks like that looks horrible. I don't even know what that is, to be honest. I'd almost say that looks like insect eggs. But I don't know how an insect would have got into there, to be honest. Just give that a quick blowout. Sorry, noise alert. No. Trusty carb cleaner. Right, so that... Ooh. Right. Now I think we ought to get all of that off, because that did look like a big cluster of insect eggs. I mean, it's in the oil there now, so I don't want to drop you in there, but I don't know if you can see that. It looked like tapioca. Yeah. Right. Just bear with me while I get something to shut the fuel off. Right. Second thoughts, we'll crack the inbox backing plate off, because it means it's easier to get hold of the look at that 10mm straight away. Keep an eye on this socket, because it will go walkabouts and you'll have to tell me when it's gone. Come back. Don't let me forget to put that back on. Can I get that off? Right, that's the, just so you know, that's the breather pipe from the crankcase. So any blow past gets fed back through there, except it's coming out of the rocker cover, but it's the same thing. It's a breather pipe for the engine, and so it's just not squirting out into the atmosphere. It goes back into the air box and it gets recirculated and burnt off, so it ingests its own blow past. I can see there's quite a lot of crud around here. Be interested to see if there is actually anything in the fuel bowl, because that would explain a lot. So if you don't know, this is a float bowl from the carburetor. And it's probably a JIS screw as well, so I'm going to rip it to pieces now using a posi drive on it. Right, so as suspected, that should be filling up with fuel right now. So the engine's run dry, there's no fuel in there at all. So the fuel's coming down as far as the fuel filter, and then it's not getting drawn up into the float bowl there, because that should be full. So what we're looking at here is just a fuel starvation issue, hopefully. So if we can prove this, if I stick the carb back on, just be careful when you're doing this, because I'm bolting these down onto the gasket, and that's not the best idea, to be honest, because if I damage the gasket, then I'll have an air leak, and it'll be running too lean, and that's not a good idea, because it's an air-cooled engine, and air-cooled engines like to run slightly rich. Right, so we use a bit of easy start, if I can get it in, which in this case is just carb cleaner. With a bit of choke. Why didn't you tell me I'd not put the spark plug back on? so that runs. It's time to go. Come on. Thing is, though, when it flies up, it's going to be fuel everywhere. Right, let me just turn you off while I sort this. That's got it. Remember what I said about gloves in the earlier videos? This is why I don't bother with them. I haven't done anything and the thumb's fallen off already. Right, so all I've done, pulled the fuel line off, shoved it up there out the way, so the fuel level's about there, I think, when I looked. So as long as I keep that pipe above there, it ain't going to fall out. There was a fair bit of swearing and a fair bit of fuel went all over the place, but we'll live with that. Let's just see if we can get this this petcock out now. Put the adjustable away and get a proper spanner out of the collar. That looks about at least an 18. I can't put a guess. Actually, it's probably a 17 to be honest. I still don't know how the if we have had insects get in there, how they've got in there, to be honest. So I'm not entirely sure what that is, unless it's just decomposed fuel. But I've never seen it go to like little beads before like that. It definitely had a tapioca look to it. Did you see that tool fly past then? Don't even know which one it was. Oh, it's the screwdriver. I'd have been looking for that. My favourite tool's out again. Come on. Don't make me get the airline out. So I really don't want to start blowing fuel all over the place. There is a trick with things that are like a rubber sleeve, handlebar grips and things like that. If you get an airline and just blow it across the entrance, the air pressure is enough to make it, the air to force its way under and give you enough room to pop it off. You would think things are too tight for it to work, but it always amuses me how easy things come off when you do it, actually, and you think, oh, well, that was easier than just standing there swearing at it for half an hour. Let's just clean up all this rubbish out from under here. I think I've said this before, I need some more rags. I've used all my old running tops and everything now, so even the Great North Run ones have been recycled. Right, so just got to find out what's wrong with this petcock now. Spin you around. So they're fairly standard things. They have a sediment bowl usually on the bottom, unless they're a straight through. Motorbikes tend to be straight through because they'll have a separate fuel filter. But this is quite normal for something like this. It's got quite a low intake of fuel anyway. And because the height of the tank, you can't see my hand up there, can you? The height of the tank above the actual carburetor intake's quite close. There's not a lot of pressure on the fuel itself. So you could stick an inline fuel filter on in this to improve it, but to be honest, you probably restrict the flow so much that you wouldn't fill the float bowl. So they just have a little sediment thing. So it works in a similar way. The fuel's flowing through there so slowly that any crap that's in the fuel just ends up dropping down. And that could be how all the rubbish has ended up in there, because I did notice, actually, here's something I spotted earlier. So inside the fuel intake in there is some critters. So that's where you fill the fuel tank up. There's a little filter there to catch any big chunks that drop in. I did notice we've got some critters in there, so I do wonder now whether something's actually managed to get past that and laid some eggs, and then the eggs have dropped into the fuel and then got sucked down. But anyway, right, back to the plot. Let's have a look what's going on with this petcock valve. So that's helpful, isn't it? That so the screws behind the the handle, which I can't get to because it won't turn. Oh. I don't like using pliers to force things like that because they have a habit of snapping, but having said that, if we don't fix it, it's no good anyway. Right, so let me find a Phillips screwdriver. So look, you can, I don't know if you can see that's a Phillips screwdriver in there, and you can see there's a bit of play around the edge. But fortunately, this isn't going to be, this is just a retainer screw. So as soon as I've unscrewed it, it's popped out quite quickly actually. So you can see there's a little bit of crap in there. But that looks okay. I might put a bit of white grease on that just to help it move. I suspect it was the bit inside that's got the problem. Yeah, that's quite fast on that. Right, so there is actually another filter in there as well, a fine mesh filter on the inside of the bowl, so there is a bit more to it to stop them up from getting into the engine. So just put a bit of carb cleaner down there. Right, so all the holes look like they're free moving. It's just the nylon piece in there seems pretty much seized. So I've not used this petcock before, so I'm on a bit of a voyage of discovery as to how we get that one out. Just having a look, see if there's anything you can push against to pop it out, or whether we just go for a bit of WD-40 and see if we can free it up and use a bigger screwdriver. You've just got to be careful you don't chew it up. Aha, right, so applied a bit of force with the screwdriver anyway and just spun it round. It is now spinning freely, so it's whether or not I can... Ah, nearly lost it. Right, okay, that doesn't look too bad actually now. I suspect it was just got gunked up. So we'll give that a quick blast out. And then shove that back in and then see how we go with that. Oops. Just check it's not got 3 directions. No, it's just got the 2 directions. Make sure it's clean. I've not got my dirty paw prints and crap all over it. So you can see there's a hole in the middle, and when you turn it to the side it locks it off. Some of the motorbike ones have 2 different channels because they have a reserve tank. So the petcocks on them will have 2 stages on the switch is on. They'll have on and reserve, and what it does when it's on reserve, it feeds from the lower part of the tank. Right, is that little screw gone? Oh, there it is, a little spring. So there's a little spring that has to sit in the middle of all of this. So I think and it's back to being stiff again. Nope. And into your oil as well, and there's a risk that you'll get a hydrolock too, so when you fire up the engine it won't effectively turn over because the piston's full of liquid and you can't compress liquid. It's not as because these aren't electric start. The hand pull, all that'll happen is you just won't get any further with it. You'll go so far around and stop. Get out the horrible pliers again. I mentioned how much I dislike these pliers. Right, so get ready for some fuel going everywhere now. I've got to remember which way around it went. So I could have used some pincers actually and pinced it, but to be honest, we're just going to go for the quick method and chuck fuel everywhere. Get one of my cleaner rags out. These are going to burn well later. Don't burn your rags, it's bad for the environment. Right, so we've actually got some fuel in the fuel bowl now, interestingly. Right, before I forget, let's use the pliers I like. A bit overkill for this, but hey ho. Right, it doesn't look like there's any leaks, so that's good. So in theory now we should have filled up the float bowl. So if I crack the float bowl off, I should get some fuel coming out of it. Let's not spill any more fuel anywhere now, shall we? Yeah, that's interesting. Curiouser and curiouser. So it should have filled up the float bowl by now. So the fuel should have gone down there. It is on. So it's filled up the fuel bowl there. That's full. And it's gone up and into the float bowl, and the float bowl float should have risen up and cut it off, but it hasn't. So I'm wondering whether the float needles got stuck too. Nope. It is definitely not playing. Interesting. Right, we'll just shut the fuel off now and we'll have a quick look in the carburetor. That's assuming fuel is getting out of the other side of there as well. Right, so there is fuel coming out of there and going up to the pot. So the inlet part of it's about there. So it's well below the bottom of the tank. So even if you run the tank all the way down, there's still enough pressure to, because it has to find its own height to push it up there anyway. So that's interesting. Right, so we'll just crack the float bowl off now and see what what's going on there. Of course, this is the point where I find out I shouldn't have put that back on again. I was going to go for it. So they have a governor on to help maintain the speed, and it looked like it had been hooked in the wrong part. There's actually a hole and a hook, and the hook bit's usually for the spring, and the spring was in the. It won't, that won't cause any problems. So as you can see, there's more crud stuck around the cooling vents. We don't get a lot of problem with critters and mice living in your lawnmowers around here, but I think some parts of the UK do. Right. See if we can persuade this to come off without dropping fuel everywhere. That one came off a lot easier. Is it a 13? No. Is it a 12? It is. Oops. You were all shouting then, weren't you? Wrong way round. Trying to avoid putting it in the vise, but I'm going to have to go and put it in the vise. Round to the other side. No, it's not a very manly vise, is it? I need a new one. It served me well, but it's not very good for bigger stuff. It's alright for this though. There we go. Let's have a look. Ew. That's not good. That's interesting. There was fuel in there. But not a lot. But the so that mucky bit I've just showed you. God. Talk proper. You have been educated, you know. Right. So that bit I've shown you. Come on, focus, camera. Right, you can't see that very well. Let's try this. This worked well earlier, didn't it? The all-seeing eye. Right, I don't know if you can see that, but that was absolutely full of crud, and you can see there's a lot of corrosion around there. So that's not good. This is where I need a parts washer. Right, so what just gonna pop that jet out. That's the main jet in there, so that looks quite blocked. So we're gonna see if we can get that out. Again, we might have to go back to the vise. Oh, that's a funny little thing. It's not what I thought it was. Normally they fill the whole centre of that, but this one appears to be just a smaller one off to one side, which is rather weird. So we'll just pop that out and have a look at it. Oh yeah, that's pretty much nope, I think that's toast, and you won't be able to see that, but that's completely blocked. Let's get my just clear some space here before I lose something. Come on, Toller, tidy up. You're making a right mess. Let's go and find a fresh tub to put stuff in. Short arse alert. Right, let's put some carburetor bits in this. Oh, that's got it. So a bit of carb cleaner. Oh, have I just shot that in your eye? That appears to have cleared that out actually. That's not too bad. It still looks fairly crusty though. So my Patent Chinesium carb cleaning kit. I don't like carb cleaner, by the way. When it gets on my skin, it's makes it burn. It's burning. Right, where's the smallest one I've got? What's the smallest one I've got? That doesn't look anywhere near small enough. Nope, that's not having it. Oh, that just fell out right then. So that bit that's just come out, that's the bit I was looking for. That's the emulsion tube. So what it does is when the fuel goes through the jet, so that's your main jet, it travels through there, then it gets vaporized by these tiny holes. So people call them emulsion tube, but what it does is actually just vaporizes the fuel. So it puts it into smaller droplets. It makes it easier to burn. So let's have a quick look at that. They look pretty clean actually. Yeah, that looks okay. So the main jet was blocked, but this actually doesn't look too bad. Put my finger over the end and see what comes out. Oh yeah, you can see it's coming out of all of those. So that's good. That's okay as well. Some of them have a pilot jet or a idle circuit jet as well, or some of them just rely on just use a Venturi pickup from the bowl. It's interesting. Never seen a spring on there before. Right, so that's okay. Still doesn't answer the question as to why no fuel came out of the when we opened up the fuel tap. So there was actually fuel in the car in the float bowl, but it's decided it wants to come out now. That's helpful. Ah, interesting. Right, so it does look like the hole at the bottom of the float bowl to let the fuel out is actually clogged up. So the float bowl probably had fuel in it. Oh yeah, crusty bit. Yep, that's coming through there now. So that's okay. So if I put this in again and block it up. Yeah, there we go. Oh, I love the taste of carb cleaner. My favourite. So it probably was the sediment in the sediment catcher that had blocked up initially and slowed the flow of fuel down, but then I put that in the right way up or the wrong way up. I think it goes in like that. Pretty sure it goes in like that. Sure, it'll tell me if it's not right. That looks about right. Yep, that's gone in. Screw, 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 screw. So normally you'd have to have there's a special screwdriver called a jet screwdriver, or a carburetor screwdriver, and they're slightly different around there so that you don't damage your threads, but because this one hasn't got a big jet, it's got a little jet off to one side, you don't have that problem for this one. Now, like a Muppet, I forgot to see which orientation this was in, so I think it was like that, because that was hanging down the back like that, so I think that's how it was. Yep, do you agree? Yeah, you can see how crusty and scabby the screw was as well. You need to be careful with these sometimes, with these screws, because sometimes the screw itself is part of the pilot jet at the bottom of the bowl, and if you pack it at washer because it's leaking, you can actually move the jet hole, well, the intake for the jet, out, so it's in underneath the packing, and then you won't get any fuel up at all. And you'll go and buy yourself a new carburetor and you don't need one. Right, so I think all in all that doesn't look that bad. That's moving okay. We appear to have just left half of my glove in there, so I hope that's not buggered up the... Let's have a look. Why didn't you tell me I'd done that? So, that orientation, that amount there. Pick up yet another tool that's thrown on the floor. Nip up the float bowl again, this time without a bit of glove stuck in there. Right, let's see if we can get these the right way around, because I am pretty convinced that that was wrong. Just leave another bit of glove behind, why don't you? Right, I think that looks right now, so that will put the proper tension on it. It won't make a massive amount of difference, but that doesn't go on there, it goes on there. I don't know what that pipe's for, it wasn't connected up to anything. So that goes on there. Must be for the fuel injected model. Joking. Right, let's try that. So any fuel we got in there will have been floating backwards. I don't even know how we managed to get in there. Right, just humour myself. That's, that petcock's starting to actually move quite freely again now. Oh yeah, that's positively pouring out of there now. Right, so that explains why. Right, so that's good. Let's get the airbox back on it again. Well, the airbox backing plate. Before anybody starts phoning up Facebook. And yeah, I do need a haircut. Everybody keeps telling me that, but it's not coming off yet. La 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 la. 5-6 Newton meters. Click. Click. Choke on. Fuel on. Power on. Carburetor's probably flooded the engine, so it's probably not going to start now anyway. Yeah, this is flooded. So you can hear it's hunting a bit there after I revved its nuts off, which you're not supposed to do with these because that's not how they work. So I'm just looking for the air filter, which appears to have vanished. Come on, be cooperative. You're laughing at my ham-fistedness. There we go. So the reason I'm shoving this back on is because when they hunt like that, it's sometimes as a result that they are running a little too lean. So it's struggling to find it's not getting enough fuel. So we'll just give that a try with that on, because that'll change the fuel air mixture. Right, before we forget, stick some oil in it. That probably, depending on how this machine's configured, because I haven't dug out that far, some of the governors run on air coming off the flywheel. Some of them run off a paddle wheel that sits in the sump, and that paddle wheel will be restricted by the oil in the sump as well. So we're just giving it a test fire up there without any oil in, which it's not going to hurt it for the short period of time we were running it for. That might account for the hunting a bit. Be careful not to overfill these, because they are a bit sensitive to it. They're not like some of the ones where you literally fill them until it flows out. You have how much oil they take on the caps anymore. They used to do that. Right, that's okay now. Quality, left over from one of the company cars. So you couldn't read that because it was back. So we've gone back onto television again. Right, let's have a quick look. Off, fuel on. Can't be bothered to run it out of there any longer. So this is probably going away for the winter now. So kids, don't leave your mowers with fuel in over winter, right? If you leave your there's hardly anything left in that. If you leave your anything with fuel in the tanks now and it's E10 fuel, it will turn to jelly, and it is corrosive as well. So as it breaks down, it becomes more corrosive and it eats brass parts. So a lot of engines like this, you'll have seen when I took it to pieces, it was already corroded in some areas. That's because we've already started using that type of fuel you've got to be careful with them. So drain everything out. It will eat the brass, it will turn to jelly, and it will clog up your carburetor. So you'll put it away winter, it'll be running fine. You'll get it out in the spring and it'll be knackered. But anyway, another one back into service. I'll stick the side back on it and the missus will be happy, and that's another one out of the backlist. So catch you later.